Now, what is going on with the European Union? A financial crisis lasting 8 years, a bitter divorce with the UK, a battle with the world's most valuable company, Apple, and now investors pulling money out of European equities at an alarming rate. Now, we'll hear from our editor-at-large, Craig Kapitas, in just a moment. He's in Paris. But first, Charlotte Dubinsky reports on what is a very European mess.
The Congress of Europe met in the Riddersal, or Hall of the Knights at The Hague, where Winston Churchill...
In the shadow of the Second World War, the idea of one European nation was born.
We cannot aim at anything less than the union of Europe as a whole, and we look forward with confidence to the day when that union will be achieved.
After decades of close cooperation through the European Economic Community, the European Union itself was formally established in 1993. Now its financial foundations appear to be crumbling. In 2015, cash inflows to the EU were worth $123 billion. But in 2016, it's a different ballgame, with around $86 billion flowing out so far. Investors are nervous as the economies of many of its member states are struggling. And then there's the uncertainty caused by the UK's decision to leave the group.
The key will be how long this continues. One swallow doesn't make a summer. We've seen similar blips in Eurozone data over the course of the global financial crisis, and they've been snuffed out pretty readily by fears elsewhere in the world.
But the decision by the European Commission to take a bite out of Apple's profits has made matters worse. Apple's CEO says it will pull money from Europe and send it back to the US. That's a big blow in itself, but now other US companies are looking at whether they should do the same, as the Commission pursues investigations into their tax affairs. Washington also has the power to suck cash out of the EU. Part of the US tax code allows the president to double tax rates for citizens and corporations of any country the White House considers is discriminating against US companies. Apple's CEO and some other companies have argued this move by the EC is simply a political one, and it's making a last-ditch effort to secure money it desperately needs to prop up failing economies like Greece. Commissioner Margrethe Vestager issued a flat denial.
I don't know what would be the motivation to make these kind of different accusations. I know what we are obliged to do, and that is to take decisions that are independent, based on our treaty, on our case law, and the facts of the case, and can be checked by the European courts.
And while the EU appears to be suffering from a lack of confidence from business, the UK, which recently voted to leave the Union, has seen a boost. New data shows its manufacturing sector expanded last month, though that was mainly due to a weaker pound. But if the sun is about to set on the once-hailed European project, that could offer a glimmer of hope for some. Charlotte Dubinsky, TRT World.
Well, let's get more on this now from our editor-at-large, Craig Kapitas. Craig's in Paris. Craig, just before we start the interview, is it true that you watched that Winston Churchill speech live? I'm just kidding, of course.
Yeah, I did, actually.
All right, Craig.
I was with him in the Boer War.
You and some others. Craig, let's deal with Apple. It says the EU wants to get its hands on the company's money because it's essentially strapped for cash. The EU says it's strictly business. Which of those two accounts do you believe?
There's no difference. Politics and economics are now one and the same. And the political and economic landscape of Europe is eroding, as Charlotte pointed out. Brexit, the Greek debt, the Italian bank collapse, private banks in Europe having to take care of bad debts that they made, should never have made. The EU needs money, and it needs money desperately. And the member countries, such as Ireland, read Apple, don't want to give Brussels money because they waste it. It's tax and spend, tax and spend. And that's just the reality. So at best, Madam Vestager is being disingenuous.
Okay, and what do you make of Apple announcing that it's going to repatriate hundreds of millions of dollars to the United States? Is it trying to punish the European Union?
No, Apple could care less about the European Union. It's never cared about the European Union. In fact, Apple does not even have a lobbying presence in Brussels, where companies like Amazon and Starbucks and Google have multi-million-dollar lobbying operations. Apple, I think, has 2 guys in a room down the street from the European Commission, and they're very rarely seen. Apple deals with countries. Tim Cook and Jobs before him never liked the European Union. In fact, they never even participated in so-called European Unionistic events such as the World Economic Forum in Davos. They were interested in customers and doing deals with friendly countries, which they invested heavily in, such as Ireland.
Right. Craig, just a final question, a final thought for you. We heard in Charlotte's report there that UK manufacturers are doing quite well after Brexit because of the weaker pound, which is a double-edged sword for most people. Do you think secretly manufacturers in other countries like Greece and elsewhere would love an exit of their own?
Well, one might think, these market moves happen in cycles, but right now, equity capital is leaving Europe faster than the Brits left Dunkirk, and it's heading elsewhere, and a lot of it is heading to Britain, and a lot of it is heading to Ireland. Now, is this going to be short-lived? I don't know. We've got to wait and see until the end of the year, but it certainly looks that way, and Apple is leading the charge.
Okay, Craig in Paris, thanks very much.